Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 12. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com, back for you guys on this Monday. Dave and I are now back to our Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3-a-week schedule, although full disclosure, because news is happening so fast right now, we are recording this Sunday night, so something breaks early Monday morning. That is what's going on and why it was not addressed. Anyway, Dave, how are you doing? We have a whole lot to talk about today.
Oh, boy, what an exciting last couple of days, most definitely, and all is right with the world, I guess, because it looks like NFL season is going to start. The Flyers have been eliminated, and so had the Pirates.
Yeah, one earlier than the other.
Yeah, so I think all is getting about close to normal with the world as best as it can be. But yeah, 4-hour show tonight, right?
Nope.
No, okay.
We may touch two.
Possibly, and look, we were, we going back to three shows this week, and obviously we had John Eisenberg previewing the Ravens, and what a fine show that was. Got a lot of great feedback on that. Listenership's just through the roof on that. We're going to try to have the beat writers from the Bengals and the Browns on the Wednesday and Friday show. So because this show is going to be dedicated obviously to roster cut down, practice squad, and just a whole bunch of different news.
Yeah, so we'll talk to those guys a little bit later in the week. But to start with the Steelers news, and of course there is a lot happening as this is one of the busiest weekends football-wise of the year, as the Steelers have trimmed their roster from 80 to their initial 53, and we do stress initial 53 as we found out today on Sunday at least that roster moves can change pretty quickly. But in terms of the initial 53, the team set after the 4 p.m. Saturday deadline, we'll go through it position by position here in a moment, Dave. But the biggest surprises were guys like Ryan Switzer and Daniel McCullers getting cut. Never thought I'd see the day where Big Dan would get released, but here we are.
Oh, right after you released the video that says
did not age well.
No. Look, I think just because of the whole friendship thing and the way Ryan Switzer kind of seemingly act, he was confident throughout the, during the couple, at least the one time that he talked to the media, I think twice really, over the course of the off season here. It just felt like he was a shoe-in to make it, You know how I feel about it, Alex. You might feel a little bit different than I do. Even though it was overall a surprise, I think when it did happen, I don't think either of us are like totally shocked on it. And I am, for one, not disappointed with the decision.
I wasn't floored by it, but I was pretty surprised by it on Switzer and McCullers. I would categorize basically all the moves this team made this week in terms of the unexpected as surprises, but not moves I'm mad at. So I agree with you. I can appreciate the Steelers to not be content with the stagnation of guys like Switzer and McCullers, guys that have very low ceilings, what they can do. It would have been easy just to keep those guys around, veteran guys you knew given the climate of so much time lost, so much harder to evaluate some of these new faces on the team. So I can appreciate the team kind of sticking their neck out a little bit to go with the more unknown as opposed to the low ceiling, quote unquote, low risk, but, relatively unproductive guys like Ryan Switzer and Daniel McCullers.
Yeah, that's fair analysis. And look, I make no mistake about it. I had Ryan Switzer in my final 53. And, as we talked, it just felt like continuity was going to be king. Throughout this thing. And for the most part, it has been when you look at the overall roster makeup and obviously the amount of guys to carry over, from last year and all like that, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, I did have Switzer on there, but at the same time, I'm not disappointed in the move overall. And look, the thing about Dan McCullers, and I think I said, I mean, it's been probably about 3 months ago or 2 months ago since I said it, and especially right after the whole Alu thing came out from Mike Tomlin, I said, man, $1.5 million for a guy that's going to be your backup, you know. I wish I would have stuck to my gut feelings on a lot of these things, but I didn't. I became, and look, we're not there. We're not seeing what's going on. Mm-hmm. How do you think? Let me ask you this before we move on, especially with these two. Do you think if you would have been there at training camp this year, in Heinz Field, part of that group watching a truncated training camp, do you think that it would have made a difference in what in what you saw, especially from the guys that got roster spots, I guess, versus the guys like Switzer and McCullers not getting them?
I'm sure to an extent. I think I would have been more open to the idea of a guy like McLeod, who reportedly had a good camp, but if you don't have eyes on it, it's hard to really know how good of a camp he may have had. I don't think I would have been able to go far enough to kick Dan McCullers off the roster for Carlos Davis.
I didn't see that one coming at all from the sheer fact that, how could we? I mean, did you ever see anything on Carlos Davis? Did you ever see anything on a guy that just, Kayvon Walker, even though I didn't think he was going to make it, a guy that, there was seemingly pre-camp, I guess, buzz you could say about him, because we weren't hearing things out of guys like Walker or Carlos Davis, it made it hard to come to the conclusion that Daniel McCullers was in trouble, right?
I agree. Let me ask you, bigger surprise, and I think I know the answer: McCullers getting cut or Switzer getting cut? For me, it's McCullers.
Yeah, but just by a hair, I guess. I mean, okay. Look, score one for analytics when it comes to Switzer. Okay. And look, I know Tom put together a nice, well thought out piece on Switzer. I know you had a little bit of something on him as well too. The tape, I think, for the most part, might be slightly better, or be in the favor, definitely more in the favor of Switzer than the analytics are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the reasons why I thought Switzer was going to make it, and it's worth pointing out that I think Jeremy Fowler at least tweeted, made a reference to the injury that Switzer was dealing with and how he may circle back. It wasn't a concrete report, but something to keep in mind, some context there that's worth at least recognizing right now. But Switzer wasn't just because he was friends with Ben, but you have trust and some chemistry with Ben. That's really valuable. I've talked to former players who have said how valuable that is before, plus his versatility, potential there in the kick return game. There were more reasons than just he was friends with Ben. But overall, while I've thought that Switzer and McCullers were going to make the roster pretty easily, and I was obviously wrong about both. I was never the biggest fans of either guy. I've been talking about McCullers for the longest time now about how let's try to find someone else than the same backup nose tackle for 6 straight seasons, and Switzer, of course, is Ryan Switzer. So while I'm surprised by these moves, I am not angry over these moves.
Yeah, I think you and I are victims of not having training camp, not having reports, from you during training camp. I think we're victims of that because, I'm in the same boat with you. I had both of them on my 53 because it came down to I had no reason not to have them on my 53 more than I had, more than there was me, I just didn't have any reasons, to buck kind of the continuity theme there. So would I bet you money that those two moves would have happened? Absolutely not, but yeah, those two were obviously of everything that happened were the most shocking.
Mm-hmm. And McCullers, of course, we'll talk about it a little bit more in a little bit, but he's re-signed to the practice squad, so you can't get rid of Big Dan that easily. And then just for the record, I think is the point that it's obvious to make, and I'm sure you agree with the sentiment. We're not celebrating anyone losing their job.
Oh no, Switzer's a great kid. And great family life, great kid, adorable baby. New dad. You hate to see. Look, this is a worst time of year for a lot of people around the NFL. And no, we don't hate the kid. Just from an analytics, my job is to evaluate and go from there and try to be as objective as possible. So, sure. Man, I hope the kid gets another shot. somewhere else. It doesn't sound like he's going to land on the practice squad, and who knows? I mean, you could turn around and next week he'd be right back on the 53.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't know. Maybe it is somewhat injury related there. No, we don't hate the kid, but I just am not. This dates back to way further than this offseason with me thinking that Ryan Switzer doesn't belong on on the 53.
And if Ray McLeod doesn't fix his ball issues, then Switzer may come back pretty quickly. And same with McCullers. I've been very critical of Big Dan. I think I've given him credit where it's due the last 2 training camps, but I'm not happy to see him lose his job. That's a guy that I give a lot of credit for being in the league this long, going into his 7th season, a 6th-round pick. Very few guys do that. So I don't want to feel like I'm dancing on anyone's graves over here. Just the reality of the situation.
And make no mistake about it, in a little bit of tape that I've seen on McLeod and the breakdowns, that we've had and all on the site. I don't think Ray gives you that much more in the slot. I mean, he's a shiftier, probably a little bit more explosive. But look, Switzer, I thought ran good routes. He just did them at 4 yards depth. And
that was a deep route, right?
Yeah. And look, I don't think at least from what I've seen and going back a little bit on the Clemson tape. Now he did have some catches down the field, but so did Switzer in college. Mm-hmm. I remember breaking down tape of North Carolina tape after the team signed Switzer, and he did make plays down the field. It's not his game undersized in the slot, really, I don't think, at the NFL level. And, look, hopefully we're not going to get in a situation where we're seeing McLeod play too many offensive snaps either, right? Sure. I mean, I think this is more of a return specialist gig than anything. And, boy, he must have been fantastic in camp because, once again, the thing that sticks out the most, at least to me, when it comes to Ray McLeod and his NFL tape to date, are his ball security. I mean, and make no mistake about it, if he puts a ball on the ground once or twice real quick out of shoot here, he's going to be gone.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like, and I'm reading tea leaves from, just bits and pieces of pool reports, that kick return touchdown he apparently had in a live drill, full tackling drill, towards the end of camp may have been the thing that kind of sealed the deal for him.
He Stephon Logan'd it, huh?
He did Stephon Logan it. That's a good pull there. All right. Anyway,
well, the problem is I'm getting too old now where that reference is going to go. That reference is going to get lost.
Right. Speaking of kick returner, my favorite stats of the weird, already giving you stats of the weird before the season begins, with Kareth White gone, Ryan Switzer gone, very likely to have a new kick returner this year. That'll make 28 straight seasons of a different kick returner. Last time the Steelers had the same kick returner, back-to-back years, 92 and 93 at the Rod Woodson. So 28 years running for the Steelers kick return game.
Wow, and let's hope it gets better this year.
Well, it can't get worse because it's been bad for 3 straight years. I'm not even mad about that stat. I think it's interesting, but I'm all for getting some new personnel back there. All right, Dave, do you want to go through the roster?
So real quick, we think Ray's going to do kickoffs now, right?
That's my guess. I think I would not count on Anthony McFarland, but my guess is for them to be compelled to keep McLeod. Plus, he's got an NFL resume. Did it in college. McFarland, of course, did not. I think McLeod's going to get the nod, but I would not discount Anthony McFarland either.
What do we think is going to happen on the punts?
Deontay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Dave, do you want to go through the roster position by position and kind of break down who made it and who didn't?
Yeah, we got 12 minutes mileage out of Big Dan and Switzer.
All right, let's see how long we can tackle this roster for. In the quarterback room, and this will kind of start to, I guess, merge Saturday's news, I should say, with Sunday's news about the new faces, but I should say returning faces to the roster. Initially, it was Roethlisberger, Rudolph, and Devlin Hodges making the initial 53, but that's why we put the emphasis on initial 53, as Hodges has now been released and assigned to the practice squad, or will sign to the practice squad, assuming he clears waivers, for our old friend Josh Dobbs. He should slide in as that number 3 quarterback.
Yeah, I'd like to say that after Dobbs got cut, I saw that one coming. I put that one out on Twitter, really, that it wouldn't be bad for the Steelers to look into Joshua Dobbs there because of several reasons. A, higher pedigree, a guy that you know. And more than anything, what attracts me to Dobbs returning to this team is the fact I think he's going to give you some damn good looks on the scout team, especially when it comes to preparing for the Ravens and things like that. Because let's face it, neither one of us want to get into a situation again this year where we're evaluating a number 3 quarterback. On top of it, you're probably a good friendly little competition between Dobbs and Rudolph. I mean, this stems back to last year, right? During the preseason. A good little competition between those two there. So a guy that you're familiar with, a guy that has not taken obviously as many snaps now in the NFL as a guy like Devlin Hodges has, but a guy that you're familiar with, more pedigree, a liver arm, more mobility, probably still not much upside still, obviously, to work with, but maybe a little bit. And once again, I think I don't think you need to undersell the fact of what Joshua Dobbs can give you as a scout team guy.
Yeah, I get that point, and there's definitely merit to it, but they don't play the Ravens until week 7, so I don't feel like they made this move just for that eventual
Sure, of course
signing.
they didn't.
Right. But I think to me that's lower on the reasons why he was signed. I just think it's a quarterback that the reasons you mentioned, a really intelligent guy to kind of add some competition in a room and just overall make your room better. It's a better room to have Ben, Mason, Dobbs, Hodges on the practice squad than Ben, Mason, Hodges, and either no quarterback on the practice squad or Paxton Lynch, who apparently struggled in training camp. So I just think it makes your room a whole lot better overall.
Right. I think
not a whole lot better, but better overall.
Right. It is a better room in my opinion. Now, once again, I'm not advocating Dobbs playing any snaps this year.
Right. Although what we saw last year, who knows?
Right. I mean, you never know. And more than anything, I think this is Kevin Colbert reversing the Joshua Dobbs curse that this team incurred from last season, and shame on him for trying to go with the 2 quarterbacks. I think he learned his lesson real quick when it comes there. But strong arm, once again, smart kid in Joshua Dobbs, and just overall pedigree. I think he's a better quarterback than Devlin Hodges. So in the story. Now, look, he's both of. I think Devlin Hodges' contract was set to end after 2020. He would have been an exclusive rights guy. Joshua Dobbs, they inherit the final year of his rookie deal, which is a minimum salary. He'll be a unrestricted free agent after this year. So it really doesn't. I mean, you're probably going to get in a situation anyway where maybe you re-sign Joshua Dobbs for the minimum anyway, but that's after the season's over with anyway. But long and short of it, your quarterback room is better overall, I think, with Dobbs in it versus Hodges in it.
Mm-hmm. Biggest thing for me with Dobbs, if we ever have to see him, and again, hopefully we don't, accuracy. His accuracy was always inconsistent, even in training camp, and that's the biggest thing that I think Josh Dobbs has to work on. Overall, though, I mean, not that Kevin Colbert planned it this way, but you trade a 5th rounder, or you trade Josh Dobbs for a 5th rounder from Jacksonville last year. Now you have that 5th rounder, which was then traded to Miami, I believe, for Minkah Fitzpatrick as part of that deal, and now you have Josh Dobbs back. So kind of worked out in the end there for old Kevin Colbert.
It's magic.
That's supposed to be like the gif of the
that's the who's that magician that he's in? Was it Doug Hitting? I think that was the guy's name. That's an imitation. That gif with the guy, the guy on Saturday Night Live with the rainbow unicorn shirt on. That's who he's trying to imitate. That's before you. That's definitely before your time.
Yeah, starting off the podcast with the reference over my head. But yeah, there's your 4 quarterbacks, assuming that Hodges clears waivers, which he almost certainly will, and lands on the practice squad. At running back, a little less drama going on there with James Conner, Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, and Jalen Samuels. I know there was some talk about maybe a Smallwood or a Kareth White could push Samuels off the roster, but I just think they valued Samuels' versatility, what he could do as a receiver, and that was enough to, I think, allow him to comfortably make the roster.
Yeah, I don't think Wendell Smallwood did himself any favors missing some time with that shoulder injury. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, even though I liked what I saw in his film when it came to pass protection, from his previous seasons, at Philadelphia and Washington, supposedly he had a rough initial out, I guess, backs on backers or something like that to read the poll reports. Once again, we weren't there to see it or know, but I think that combined with him having a shoulder injury, and once Jalen Samuels came off the COVID list, I think he was the same old Jalen Samuels. To Jalen Samuels' testament, it looked like and this is video only, and I'm sure every player does this, but he really looked like he worked hard during the offseason there on agility and strength and toning up that body a little bit more there. And look, this is a guy they can use in the passing game. I'm not overly impressed with Jalen Samuels' pass protection skills, so hopefully we don't have to see him in a lot of those settings. But if they need to get into a third down situation, or maybe move him around and split him out wide, well he's definitely your guy to potentially do that. So it made sense once Smallwood missed some time right from the get-go, and I never really viewed Kareth White as a legitimate maybe push for that position there. So we knew that they were more than likely going to keep 4 overall running backs there along with a fullback, and it just made sense for Samuels to be that guy.
Yep, end the half, end the game, no huddle, passing situation type stuff. That's where Samuels will be really valuable, more so than a Benny Snell or Anthony McFarland. Of course, Derek Watt also made it as the team's fullback. At wide receiver, keeping just 5 with Juju, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, Chase Claypool. Those were the top 4 we knew were locks. And then, of course, Ray McCloud beating out Ryan Switzer and Deon Cain for that 5th wide receiver spot.
Yeah, well, obviously we talked about the surprise already in Switzer. I thought for sure I thought for sure they'd still keep 6, regardless of how you mix and match them. So not only did they not keep Switzer, they kept the other guy that I had on the 53 as the 6, or they did not keep the guy that I had them keeping in Deon Cain. However, as I mentioned throughout the offseason there, Deon Cain, I think is overrated. Now they obviously, and we'll get to the portion here later on, talk about the practice squad. He landed there, so they like him enough to for that part of it. But it doesn't overly hurt my feelings that Deon Cain didn't make the 53 when it comes to that. However, I did have him and Switzer as 5 and 6, I guess you could say, on my wide receiver depth chart.
Yeah, Cain was I had on there just because there was no compelling reason to take him off that list. And he's on the practice squad. He can be called up at a moment's notice. So I think that works out well for him. Although being cut sucks and you get a pay cut certainly on the practice squad, he is just a phone call away.
I guess more than anything, having a guy like Eric Ebron and being able to flex him out and all like that, I mean, gives you more of a wide receiver-ish type body, which probably allowed you to loosen up a roster spot, if you will, kind of thing there. So I understand it. I would have never predicted just 5 wide receivers on the 53.
Right. And speaking of tight ends, pretty chalk there with McDonald, Ebron, and Zach Gentry. Those were the 3 we've basically predicted since the season ended. Since Ebron was signed, I should say.
Yeah, I don't think that was going. That you want to talk. That would have been a huge upset if that group had not played out that way.
Mm-hmm. And the reports on Gentry this camp have been positive, so made you more confident he was going to make the team in his second year. With the offensive line keeping 9, I'll go through the 9 here briefly. Villanueva, Okorafor, Banner at tackle, DeCastro, Filer, Dotson at guard, Bouncy, Wisniewski, and surprise, surprise, J.C. Hassenauer making the team at center. Although, as you pointed out, Dave, that probably has as much to do with the looming injuries and minor stuff that DeCastro and Wisniewski are dealing with. So they want to protect themselves by keeping a 9th lineman, including Hassenauer, who can play center or guard.
And that's one I never saw coming either there. In fact, if you would have told me that they were going to probably keep an extra guy, I probably would have chosen Derwin Gray.
Same.
Being up front and honest with it. I didn't see that coming. Now, if we go back to the end of last year, JC was on the 53. When after Pouncey went down, if we only knew more about the injury to DeCastro, which obviously we don't, and if we only knew, correct me if I'm wrong, and because it wasn't, I don't think, kind of verified in reports, only on video that I saw in those last couple of practices. Wasn't Stefan Wisniewski sidelined those last couple of practices?
You went you're catching up for the pro day missed time by doing some sleuthing there and finding Wisniewski in the background. Yeah, it looked like he was sitting out.
Now the only thing is I'm not 100. I think one of them was definitely from Heinz Field, and one of them at the UPMC, right?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
But anyway, I'm almost positive those last couple practices Wisniewski sat out. Okay, I know at least one of them he did. So, and they termed it a vet day off. But how many times have you seen these guys have 2 back-to-back days off? Especially in a truncated training camp situation there. So, where's my tinfoil hat?
We know Tomlin said DeCastro might not practice until Wednesday.
Right, but even so, if you thought there was 100%, you could have still made moves probably. Anyway, long story short here, I'm not going to be surprised if one of those guys, DeCastro or Wisniewski, for whatever injury reason, winds up. It's going to be interesting to see the injury report when it comes out. I guess the first one this week will be actually Thursday instead of Wednesday because the Steelers play on Monday. And you can bet your sweet Patukas that Tomlin's not going to volunteer you any information until that until that first injury report comes out. But that's the only way, because the only other thing too is, look, with the whole that 54th and 55th roster player and the two extra guys active on game day, at least 8 guys have got to be dressed. 8 offensive linemen at least have to be dressed for you to
utilize that.
Utilize that. So, you add all that together. I think there's an injury here that we're going to learn a little bit more about this coming week.
I hope it's just protection and making sure that DeCastro and/or Wisniewski are practicing and feel good and anticipate playing week 1, and then maybe you do something with Hassenauer, because if you cut Hassenauer, of course you expose him to waivers, unlikely to be claimed, but still a risk. And then if you did want to bring him up as that 54th, 55th guy, correct me if I'm wrong, you can only do that to an individual player twice in a season, correct?
Back and forth without him exposing to waivers.
Okay, so you could do it every week, and then after the second time, he's just exposed to waivers?
That is my yes. The first two times, my understanding on this, the first 2 times he does not need to tear up his practice squad contract. The third time he comes up, he has to tear up his practice squad contract.
Okay, gotcha. Well, either way, I just think
and then that means to get back to the practice squad, he has to clear waivers. Now,
but you can be promoted as many times as they want that player to be promoted in a season.
Right. It's just about protecting them from the waiver system. Now, if you send a guy back and forth twice like that, and you protect him, and his protection runs out twice, and let's say he clears waivers and he goes back to the practice squad, I still don't think you can bring him forward and protect him that way. Now, if he goes to another team, the counter resets on him.
Okay. Well, either way, I just think it's protection against DeCastro, Wisniewski. Their injuries they're dealing with, hopefully it's minor, but until those guys are proven to be back, ready to go, expected to play Monday night, I just think they want to hold on to Hassenauer for a little bit longer.
He is a guy that I think probably should rent, not buy, right now.
That's a good way to frame it.
Because I think, and we're going to find out Thursday. What's going on here, and most definitely by Monday. I'll put it out there. I will not be shocked if J.C. Hassenauer is dressed Monday night.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. We'll find out a little bit later this week when the injury report unveils itself, as you said. All right, so that is the Steelers' offense. To flip over to the defense, the defensive lineman keeping 6 with Hayward, Tuitt, Wormley, Buggs, Alualu, and 7th-round rookie Carlos Davis beating out Daniel McCullers. That is the notable addition there. And
good for him, man. Good for him.
Him and his brother made it.
So good for him, because the sheer fact that I don't even think. I can't remember hardly anything being written about Carlos Davis. Throughout.
I can't remember one thing about Davis
throughout this process. So this is a guy that I never really considered putting on my 53 because. Didn't have anything on him throughout this process here. So the fact that I think it speaks volumes. Well, also Daniel McCullers' $1.5 million salary probably spoke more volumes on that. But at least they've got some level of confidence, I guess, in the kid there. And that makes you feel a little bit good moving forward, maybe about his potential future as well, too. Now, obviously, we don't expect him to play a lot. In fact, if they go typical Steelers and only dress, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting situation here. Do you dress all 6? If you're dressing the extra 2 this year, do you dress all 6 now, defensive linemen?
That's a good question. I think I'm much more confident in Isaiah Buggs definitely getting a hat on game day. The question would be Davis, because the concern I had was McCullers still going to get the nod over Buggs if you only kept 5. I think even if they only have 5 up on game day, I think Buggs will get it over Carlos Davis, assuming Chris Wormley's good to go and has gotten some reps and kind of be the emergency nose tackle in a pinch. But we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Okay, that's going to be the other interesting thing to watch with him and the game day inactive list, for the sheer fact that the ability to only have, I guess, technically 5 inactives this year. Is that right?
Right. It's only 5.
If you meet the other requirements, and you would think most teams are going to take advantage of that, I would think.
Sure.
So, how many times can he avoid that inactive list?
Yeah, we shall see. Everything else with the D-line pretty chalk. Moving on now to linebacker, where it was a little less chalk with Watt, Dupree, Highsmith, and Adaney making it. And we talked about who was going to make it between Kozora Skipper and Jay Elliott. Turns out neither ended up making it. Just 4 outside linebackers being kept.
Yeah, so much for that tinfoil hat. It's got a dent in it, I think. Read a lot into it, and not enough, right? Boy, Kozora Skipper, what a fall from grace. That guy goes from being your really your darling, right? At least your preseason darling from last year. Everybody clamoring, oh, he'll never clear waivers. Well, they didn't have to worry about it initially, but a few days later, he got waived, and lo and behold, he got claimed, and later on in the season, back he comes. So there was definitely still some interest there. Man, he must have really had a rough training camp is all I can think of, because you kind of, you bring him back the way that they did. And, as we said, probably shouldn't read too much into him signing a 2-year contract during the offseason, because they were both minimum years, and, there was nothing to lose if you had to cut him anyway kind of deal. But you kind of got a sense that they liked him, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then you get into this training camp here, and really, you want to talk about somebody really nothing written about him, and then lo and behold, not only is he out, not even on the practice squad.
Yeah, there were some camp reports that were negative of him, and again, the lack of special teams value, no preseason this year, didn't really get the work yet last year with Pittsburgh. Kind of that was the big talking point a year ago. Why couldn't they use Kozora Skipper on special teams in preseason? Just, I think, really left them without value. And with Highsmith playing well and seemingly going to be the number 3 outside linebacker, the first guy off the bench, Skipper, I guess, just became expendable.
Yeah, that guy's career might be over now.
Maybe. I'm sure he'll be on the tryout circuit for teams, but who knows where that future is for Kozora Skipper.
Yeah, and J-Ron, I thought if they didn't keep one, they'd keep the other. I tell you what it speaks volumes to, and this is something I think you just mentioned in the last podcast, about Alex Highsmith. Really speaks volumes about the confidence and the kind of the camp, I guess, that he had overall as well too. The fact that they're going into this thing with technically, but not technically 8 linebackers in total, whatever you want to classify Marcus Allen is pretty astonishing, really, overall. And, I think now there is a better chance than ever that Alex Highsmith will see some sort of burn sooner rather than later, and we'll just start counting the snaps.
I agree wholeheartedly. Inside linebacker, as expected, with Bush, Williams, Gilbert III, and Spillane. Those were the only 4 they had. Those were the 4 they kept.
Yeah, no surprise there. And then obviously whatever you want to classify Marcus Allen is, something that I'm sure we're going to be talking about, a little bit as the season goes on here. But those are the 4, and thank God they stayed healthy. And now I guess the biggest thing is Well, we'll get to that in a little bit when we talk about the practice squad. But yeah, the chalk across the board there. Obviously, Spillane, a good special teams guy. Ulysses Gilbert, a good special teams guy, and a guy that you hope can be that next guy off the bench there. And you just, once again, you hope these four can stay healthy.
Absolutely. Moving to the secondary with the cornerback group, they kept 6. Hayden, Nelson, Hilton, Sutton, Lane, and undrafted rookie free agent James Pierre makes it. And Dave, you called him a ball magnet during camp, and he's sticking to the 53-man roster this time.
Let me just clarify. I never have been to any other practices. I am not. I know a lot of people out there pretending to be at the practices or whatnot, but I have never been to any practices. I've seen as much as everybody listening as this probably has, and that's virtually nothing. But one thing that I did see throughout this thing. On Steelers.com, I paid attention. Look, that's all he had all we had were the pictures. I would study those pictures 2 or 3 times a day, see if anything kind of stuck out to me. And it was clear that the ball was constantly in Pierre's hands quite a bit in some of these pictures, and he doesn't play offense, so. That's a pretty good sign right there. So, look, the fact of the matter, look, I didn't have him on my 53. I toyed with it, but I didn't have conviction in it. I had a good idea that he's probably going to make the practice squad at the very least there. But I think it's a huge, huge accomplishment for a kid like that in this environment right now, truncated off season and all. And I think Matthew wrote about this on the site this morning as well too. I think it speaks volumes about the training camp they saw this kid have. The fact that he made the 53 as a 6th cornerback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as an undrafted guy, but he's got good size. He's what, like 6'1"?
6 even.
Oh, yeah, we did have the discussion the other day. He was listed 6'2", but he's actually 6 foot, but still 6 foot's good size with ball skills. I think that's an interesting, good project corner to keep on your 53. I just thought maybe they would cut him because there was no preseason and kind of easier to stash some of those guys that aren't being seen by other scouts. But to like him enough to keep him on the 53, as you said, speaks volumes about where they think he's at and, more importantly, where he's headed.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave, finishing out the secondary with the safety group with Fitzpatrick, Terrell Edmonds, Curtis Riley initially making the 53. We'll circle back to that in a second. Jordan Dangerfield and Marcus Allen, although the other news of the day, Steelers claimed Josh Dobbs and they signed Sean Davis. So Dave getting the band back together, although that did come at Riley's expense. He's been released and assigned to the practice squad as one of 3 veteran exceptions with this expanded practice squad and expanded practice squad rules this year. So Sean Davis coming back to be the backup safety. And again, I think that is a solid, not spectacular, but definitely a solid move to add him as quality depth.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, yeah, that was another guy with Sean Davis that neither of us were really surprised by. I didn't know for sure if it was going to happen. This is a guy that obviously got a chance to walk last year, signed last offseason, this past offseason, signs with Washington, his hometown, gets a nice signing bonus there, gets cut by Washington, and it circles back to Pittsburgh. So as a starter, obviously we know Davis' struggles, had the injury last year with a torn labrum that facilitated the make-up Fitzpatrick deal. So, but to get Davis as a backup who can play strong safety, can play free soft safety, even slot, use some sort of dime, hybrid type role if you really needed him to, I think is really quality depth for the Steelers.
Absolutely.
And then I was a little disappointed with Curtis Riley, but I think it was kind of a numbers game. Dangerfield, strong special teamer. They like Marcus Allen versus Tilly, but Riley just a phone call away with the safety position if they need somebody, if someone was to get hurt. And then to finish out, the specialists with Boswell, Berry, and Kennedy, although there's an asterisk next to Jordan Berry's name right now. I don't know if we'll talk about that right now or wait a moment with the potential of Dustin Colquitt, the veteran punter of the Chiefs, coming in for a tryout.
Hey, we'll have to see what's going to happen there. It doesn't sound like they're very happy overall, right? With Berry.
Yeah, I mean, the report initially was he was coming in for a tryout. That was on the transaction sheet, I believe. And then Tom Pelissero from NFL Network said that if everything goes well, he's got to go through COVID testing, pass his physical, all that stuff. If everything went well, they were going to sign him, although Jerry Dulac on Sunday tweeted out the team was unsure if they were going to sign Colquitt or not. So really last second here with the season coming up, I'm not sure why they didn't maybe make this move earlier in training camp. Maybe Barry just had that bad of a camp, but he's got a big body of work in the regular season. I don't know how much one camp's going to affect things, but we'll see. We'll keep you posted on that. I think they're pretty similar type guys, but Colquitt's shown more consistency, and I think maybe has better hang time. Some of the numbers I've looked at in terms of net and return yards allowed are definitely in Colquitt's favor.
With Sean Davis coming back, how big was the surprise, of that overall?
Not a huge surprise. You just never know with one particular guy if he wants to come back. I'm sure he wasn't happy about, Minkah Fitzpatrick getting traded. It kind of was the writing on the wall for Davis at the time, and you didn't know if he really wanted to come back to Pittsburgh. But after losing out on a starting spot in Washington, he's going to have to be a backup somewhere. So Pittsburgh, a good place of any for him to get an opportunity, knows the system, pretty quick turnaround for him. So yeah, I have an article from Monday that says, adding Dobbs and certainly adding Sean Davis are not home runs, but they're just solid singles up the middle that kind of give yourself some good depth to surround your elite talent.
I didn't think, I don't think a lot of people probably saw, maybe the people in Washington saw that coming with Sean Davis there. So that was kind of hard to predict, first and foremost, him getting cut. But once he did get cut, the thought crossed my mind. The thing is not having a good kind of feel of maybe how it ended with the Steelers, obviously IR'd second game after the second game last year, and moving forward from there, and he didn't seem too happy about it. Right. For obvious reasons. I mean, look, going through a serious injury and all, like he was going through and all. Never really felt kind of comfortable these last couple years, I don't think, in Pittsburgh overall. But once he did get cut, the thought crossed my mind. Look, that there when you look at what Washington paid him, and he pockets that you want to talk about easy money, man. $2 million and to not do nothing really, but do your off-season work, and that was it. And then they cut him. He keeps that. I don't think that has any offset language there. And look, we haven't seen the details of that deal overall, but I'm willing to bet you it's probably a 1 year minimum signing benefit deal. And if that's the case, that'll come with a reduced cap hit overall. We'll see if there's that minimum 100. And I think the maximum the signing bonus can be on a minimum signing or minimum salary benefit deal, something like $130,000 or something like that, which is basically peanuts. So basically, you swap Riley and Davis, assuming it's a contract. I think it is for nothing. There. And then also you get a guy that you're a lot more familiar with. Look, I mean, Riley, and I think we quantified this throughout, after Riley was signed, right? He's the best backup free safety on your roster, but that's not really saying that much, right? Right. There. So at least you got a guy that's position flexible, guy that a little bit more about, a little bit higher pedigree there in Sean Davis, and yeah, you have Riley right there, break glass in case of emergency on the practice squad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in a year where obviously you don't know these outsiders too well, if they were coming from other teams that you hadn't had on your team before, there's a lot more risk, a lot more projection there. So to bring back Josh Dobbs and Sean Davis, yeah, it seems like, it just kind of retreads. But when you know these guys well, they can pick up the system right away. There's not really any fear about what types of guys these are on or off the field. It makes you more comfortable in bringing those guys in the most logical option. So Davis is a starter, very much borderline guy, not someone you have a ton of confidence in, but as a backup, I think is a really strong option. And just kudos to this team for recognizing pre-training camp safety depth was the number one issue for this team. We talked about that so much throughout the offseason. They help address that with Curtis Riley, Sean Davis, get guys with real Sunday experience to be backups to Fitzpatrick and Edmonds. And then last question on Davis, and I know this is so murky, especially with CBA and COVID stuff and all that, but comp situation with Sean Davis, how does him getting cut from Washington, coming back to Pittsburgh, how does this impact the Steelers' comp outlook for this upcoming draft?
This is going to be interesting to watch play out. We'll learn a little bit more, I think, about the comp process in its totality, as this rolls along. But my initial And let me find here. I talked a little bit to Nick Corte from Over the Cap about this online as well too. And I was writing this up, and then I thought I remembered some sort of a change from Corte, something related to the whole Gerald McCoy thing with Dallas. So I went back and was researching this midway through writing this post up and all, and luckily I did, because there was a change in Appendix 5 of the newest CBA. And what they basically did, without getting in, trying to read that damn thing and how it's written, and me being from the South and having a second grade education, there's a lot of handicaps in there for me involved. But best way to describe it is they wanted to kind of take the loopholes away from these teams gaming the compensatory system kind of in season there, and cut and play. Yeah, we saw this firsthand last year with the old LJ Fort and Dante Moncrief kind of thing there. And now supposedly, once you sign these players, they're yours and they count. The only question now is how much of if they're cut prior to the season starts, and their contracts terminated, how much, if any, of guarantees that might have been in that contract, how much of that contract values into the compensatory formula? Mm-hmm. There's still a little bit of question on that, and that all stems, I think, going back to the whole Gerald McCoy thing with Dallas earlier this offseason there. And the thing that's going to be the biggest thing to figure out here when it comes to Sean Davis specifically in his situation is, that contract was a $4 million contract of what he could have earned total. But he, is it going to be considered a $2 million deal because of that? That's all he got. And that was guaranteed in there. Now, if it's valued at a $4 million contract, then it's not going to, it's not going to change a thing. All right. If, however, it is valued as just a $2 million contract, then that could impact the balance sheet over there, overall. And by impact it, could it take away a sixth or the seventh that's on the board, or could it just lower one? I don't know. And that's kind of the thing that we still have to figure out. It's not for certain that it will impact it, but if indeed the contract enters into the equation as just a $2 million deal, then I think it will indeed impact some way, shape, or form what the Steelers get as far as what's out there now.
Right. As of Corte's latest projection, I think a few months ago, he had the Steelers getting a fourth and a sixth in 2021, the fourth for Hargrave, the sixth for losing B.J. Finney. So we'll see if that contract adjustment will kick Finney to a seventh off the board entirely. We're not quite sure either right now. So, we'll play it by ear, I guess.
Right. And trying to figure out that formula is tough. And if anybody's gotten good at it, it's Corte. So, he'll keep digging on this. And the latest I got from him was just, I think yesterday, he says, yes, it could demote the sixth to a seventh or remove that pick altogether.
So hard to know. Hard to say with this new CBA how the comp formula, which is already so just difficult to get through, becomes even tougher with some of these different adjustments that we're all trying to react to. So we'll keep posted on that. But either way, Sean Davis back in Pittsburgh, and I think that is just very quality depth behind Minka and Terrell Edmonds. Absolutely.
And plus, once again, you have Riley there if you need him, and he spent all of camp with you too. And it's hard to imagine. I mean, we'll see as the season goes on. I can't see any team going after Riley right now to pluck him off. There. So you kind of got the best of both worlds, if you will. And, you'll give Sean Davis a little bit of time here. And, God willing, we don't have to see him playing much, but, and we'll see what Sean Davis can bring to this team on special teams, but, I think you got the best of both worlds there. And I know a lot of people probably aren't thrilled about Sean Davis being back. He had made some strides, I thought, before he got hurt. Tiny ones, but, a little.
Yeah, just as a backup, I'm certainly much more comfortable with it. Special teams, he's usually played around 100 to 200 snaps. He's okay at it. He's not a great core type guy, but probably play a wing on the punt team and run down some kicks or something like that. So he'll get some usefulness as the number 3 safety on special teams as well.
The way Riley's kind of allergic to tackling sometimes. And look, I mean, Sean Davis is not the best tackler, right?
Right.
We've learned
but
that.
But he's bigger and a little more physical.
Right, and he has more want to when it comes to Riley. So I think overall an upgrade in the – it's a tiny one – an upgrade in the tackling department. I don't know, probably a wash maybe. I think Davis is the better strong safety type, and Riley probably the better free safety type, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Either way, though, a lot of continuity in that secondary. I mean, they basically lost Artie Burns, and that was it. Because they bring Sean Davis back, and obviously everyone else is returning. So a lot of continuity there. Maybe that'll expand some of the packages and do more, pre-snap disguises early in the season. Because this group's staying together. And
what did we say all offseason about what they were going to do in the safety position, Alex?
Add to it?
Yeah, add depth to it. Probably a young guy, probably a guy that can play both positions, a guy that can give you a little something on special teams. A little did we know it'd be.
Did not guess it would be Sean Davis.
Little did we know it'd be one of their own passed on. But we knew they had to do something there, and even once Riley was brought in, you were kind of like, okay, well they did it. But now you kind of got two Band-Aids on that thing if you need it,
There you go. All right, Dave. So that is the Steelers' 53-man roster. They announced the 14 of the 16 practice squad spots on Sunday afternoon. I'll go through the offense. We'll review that, and then we'll talk about the defense. On offense, the practice squatters are running back Trey Edmonds, wide receivers Deion Kane and Amaro Darbo, tight end Kevin Rader, offensive lineman Anthony Coyle, Teron Jones, and Derwin Gray. So those are the practice squad players that have been signed and announced by the team. And then according to Jerry Dulac, this team, to fill out the last 2 vacant spots, will sign quarterback Devlin Hodges and running back Wendell Smallwood for the offense.
The Devlin Hodges definitely makes sense to leave the spot open right there because he has to clear waivers. All right, That makes sense. I'm not saying this isn't going to happen, but I just want to throw something out there. Smallwood did not have to clear waivers. Okay. He was a contract termination. So technically he should have signed today. Right. Now, I guess his agent probably said, well, give us 24 hours to see if anything materializes. So I suppose that could be an instance there. All right. It would obviously make sense for this team to either add another running back or an inside linebacker. Am I correct?
Yeah, and added prior to Smallwood's news coming out that he was going to sign.
Well, prior to Smallwood news.
Yeah. If you figured they were going to add maybe an inside linebacker, you knew Hodges was going to probably go back to the practice squad as the 4th quarterback, and Smallwood making the practice squad is not a big surprise.
I guess what I'm getting at is don't be shocked if Smallwood's not the other one.
Okay, so you think it could be someone else entirely, or just
I think it could wind up being someone else from outside, and maybe even possibly a linebacker.
Okay, yeah, we'll see. Speaking of the defense,
just that. Now let me quantify that. It's just me with my tinfoil hat on, okay? Because of Smallwood already being eligible, but it is plausible that he said, give me 24 hours to look around. But technically, you would have thought he would have signed today.
Yeah, no, I think it was just him wanting to look around and just see if there's another offer out there. And then, because the practice squad option was probably always on the table, he just wanted to take a day just to see if anything else came up to make a 53 somewhere else.
Do they need, let me ask you this, though. You got 4 running backs you got 4 and a fullback, and then now you got, I don't know what you quantify Trey Edmonds as. Do you need another running back on the practice squad?
You don't need one, but I think Smallwood's skill set of a little bit of a better pass blocker, a little bit of receiver, a little bit of return guy is kind of different than even Benny Snell, McFarland. If something happened to James Conner, Smallwood may be someone you want to call up because he's just kind of more versatile, can wear different hats, and that kind of gives you a different element from guys like McFarland and Snell, who are a little bit more limited, and of course a little bit younger as well.
And Smallwood can play you some special teams.
Right. So yeah, if Jalen Samuels' role had to expand, small work and run down kicks and punts too, and there's probably some value in that. Of course, Edmonds can do that. That's kind of been his calling card, why he's sticking around. But just good to have some extra running back depth. You saw how battle tested that group was last season. All right, for the defense, the practice squatters they kept. Defensive lineman Henry Mondo and Dan McCullers signs on the practice squad members. The veteran exceptions this year, so you can have players who normally would not be eligible. Essentially, everyone is eligible this season. Jay Elliott, the outside linebacker, signed the practice squad. Same with Trayon Bandy, the corner. Safeties Antoine Brooks Jr. and Curtis Riley. And Corliss Waitman, the rookie punter from South Alabama. And that rounds out the Steelers practice squad.
Not a bad group, top to bottom, really.
Yeah, I was happy with this roster overall. I didn't think they had to make any moves. Again, I'm totally fine and happy with bringing in Josh Dobbs and Sean Davis, but I think the roster was pretty solid. There weren't any major injuries that were going to affect things either, which is always a plus. So it's a really strong roster, and just adding guys like Dobbs and Davis round out depth to support some of those stars at the top.
I like the group. Look, I mean, you have a lot of familiarity here, top to bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so, Big Dan on the practice squad. We'll see if he gets called up. That's certainly the biggest name I would say on the practice squad right now. So, any other thoughts or reaction to the Steelers roster? Any other news that I missed that you wanted to touch on, Dave?
Oh wow! Trying to think what did we miss there that we should probably get to there, but I think we got a lot of it there. The four that I missed overall, top to bottom, that I did not have on my roster were J.C. Hassenauer, Ray, who else? Carlos Davis, and who was the other one I'm missing?
Pierre? Did you have
Pierre? Yeah. Pierre was the other one, James Pierre. So those are the four that I missed. Was that about the four that you missed, or?
Yeah, I think our rosters were identical, I'm pretty sure. So then, those would be the four on the roster that I missed as well. But, you didn't see some of those moves coming. I mean, obviously Sean Davis, Josh Dobbs, all those guys coming in. But even prior to that, I mean, just tough to project a guy like Big Dan getting pushed off the roster after making it so many years in a row.
Yep.
All right, Dave. Let's do this before we get to reader emails. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about before around the NFL or any other just NFL news? Josh Rosen going to Tampa Bay on the practice squad does not land in Pittsburgh. For anyone wanting Rosen, he's now Bruce Arians' problem.
And look, the contract, like I said, the contract ended up being the issue there. So
yeah,
and I'm not surprised. I think I'm not shocked that the Steelers didn't have any interest there, or seemingly didn't have any interest there.
Yeah, Jadeveon Clowney signs with the Titans, so there's the biggest free agent left. He's now signed. Adrian Peterson goes to Detroit. I'm just kind of scrolling through any other headlines here. I mean, I don't know if there's any giant notable roster cuts from around the AFC North. So, Dave, let's talk about our friends over at MyBookie first, and then we'll get to some reader emails and begin closing out today's show.
Absolutely. Winning season returns at MyBookie. Winning season means double your first deposit. Winning season means Survivor, Super Contest, and Squares. At MyBookie, winning season means hitting all your parlays and props with your feet up, watching your team trounce their rivals. Rejoice, rejoice. It's time to celebrate the NFL season once again. Invest in your intuition. Use promo code TERRIBLE. That's promo code TERRIBLE. And double your first deposit. New players get up to $1,000 in free play designed to add more excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. Make from live betting to championship futures, every play you want to make is waiting at mybookie.ag. It's simple. Make your picks, win big, collect your cash. Use promo code TERRIBLE. That's terrible, and double your first deposit at mybookie.ag. Your winning season begins today only at MyBookie. And once again, we thank MyBookie for being a sponsor of the Terrible Podcast. I think this is about, third year, I think, in a row we've had them. Glad to have them.
Yep, shout out to them. By the way, probably the biggest jaw-dropping news for me personally, at least, of Cutdown Weekend was the Oakland Raiders trading third-round pick Lynn Bowden to the Dolphins for a 4th and a 6th. Talk about cutting bait right away. Yeah,
you were a big fan of his, weren't you? His tape?
I liked him. Yeah, he was an interesting guy. Oakland apparently does not agree.
Yeah, and I think Mayox just said it's a football move. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, well, they're trying to move him to running back. I guess it didn't go well. There are rumblings about locker room stuff. I don't know, but I've been a big Mike Mayock fan, but him in the draft, taking Cleve Farrell, top 5 a couple years ago, Bowden this year, got some weird selections over there. And I think am I saying Oakland, Vegas now? So crazy news there.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave, let's get to some reader emails and begin closing out today's show.
I'm trying to think if we got many because we're doing this a day early. I'm sure we do here.
Yeah, we had Saturday's reaction. I'm sure some news came in from fans.
Yeah, let's see. Steelers beat me to the punch. Love the podcast aside. Just got the 1 year ad free. Good for you, Michael. Let's see. I was going through the cuts and I was going to ask you if you thought the Steelers should get Dobbs and Davis back for depth. Oh well, that just happened. So I'll instead ask you your thoughts on the moves instead. I thought it was obvious to re-sign them for the right price, given they know the playbook and COVID will challenge most teams to have players up to speed, especially backup players. Your thoughts on these players and their signings, Mike? I think we covered a lot of it there earlier in the podcast. Really, overall, there's not a lot not to like, I don't think, when it comes to these moves, because of the familiarity, just because of everything that you said, Michael, and assuming they got these guys cheap on top of it, which they did. We know for a fact that's the case with Dobbs, and we'll find out very soon if that's the case with Davis as well too. So I don't think there's a lot not to like, especially look, you're able to keep a guy like Riley on the practice squad, so it all worked out.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything both of you guys have said. I think, it's guys that it creates better depth overall. Depth can be so critical this year because you just don't know what's going to happen with COVID and things like that. And Davis gives yourself some versatile options at the backup safety spot. Again, Davis as a starter is questionable. As a backup, though, I think that's ideal for both him and for the team.
Let's see if we can find a few more in here. I'm surprised people weren't. Let's see here. George. Let's see. No, George is just in. Well, that is as long as he is not eligible for the practice squad. This is something from George. George. Yeah, I think or Eric. I'm sorry. No, I don't know who's he sending it. Oh, someone tried to send something to somebody else, and we got tagged in the email. We got tagged in somebody else's email. That was to Eric. Eric, I hope you got the email. Yes. Daniel McCullers was eligible for the practice squad.
A 41-year-old Josh McCown can be eligible for a practice squad. What a job that is! $12,000 a week to hang out in Texas on Zoom calls.
And let's see, what else do we have here? This was from the other day No, I think we got everything. I think everybody probably in the process getting some emails over here. Either that or they went into the spam. And I think you all got this from let's see, didn't agree with Josh. I saw Alex's, did we answer this the other day? I saw Alex's tweet that he didn't agree with bringing in Josh Rosen. Yeah, we already went over that from Jordan there. All right, what else do we have?
I think that's just about everything, unless any other news comes in. We'll see on Dustin Colquitt. I'm just wondering what the debate is. They're both known guys. Barry's obviously been the team since 2015. Colquitt's been in the league for 14 years. Either make the move or don't. Don't know what there really is to consider at this point.
All right, we do have. Let me go over a couple things real quick here from a salary cap perspective right now. Oh, we forgot to hit on I forgot to take my victory lap.
Oh, with the Castro's restructure.
Yeah, shame on me for forgetting to pat myself on the back.
Don't want to miss an opportunity for that. All right, tell us about David DeCastro.
David DeCastro, as I've been talking about for quite a while, expected him to do a restructure. Well, that got reported just on Saturday there, as expected, and that was a max restructure there. Cleared up $3.85 million in the process there. DeCastro's 2021 cap charge now increased that same amount, $3.85 million. And as I've stated here, he's in a perfect, it sure seems like this is lining up for him to be ripe for a contract extension next offseason there. But they had to free up this money because of practice squad, because of 52nd, 53rd players on the roster, and because Kevin Colbert usually likes to have, between 5 and $7 million in additional cap space for in-season use there, which they have now. So we still have some shaking out to do here. We'll see what happens with the punter situation, because believe it or not, they could save if they went to a guy like Colquitt on a minimum salary benefit deal versus, and then lopped off Berry in the process. You'd save almost $1 million in cap space by doing that there. So
it was about $1 million saved with Big Dan. What was the number on Big Dan's?
Just look at it from the kid that replaced him. It was 1.5 versus a rookie deal. A little bit more than a rookie deal. So I don't know, almost, I think 870 something, 890,000 or something like that is what they saved in the process there. And I have been, let me pull up here, including the David DeCastro restructure and the Saturday cuts, the Steelers should be around $8.6 to $8.7 million under the cap. Now they still must get the practice squad established that could use around another $2.65 million-ish, right around in there. So as we sit here right now with no changes on the punting situation, they are roughly $6 million under the cap right now.
Not bad. Not bad for this team.
When we're sitting back and saying, before the CBA got all resolved, saying, man, how the hell are they going to do this? Because they were facing the potential, that 30% rule that we talked about, spent time with, and look, they did massive restructuring, obviously, and had to. Earlier in the offseason there, and lo and behold, they had this one more restructure with David DeCastro that took place. So yeah, and they should enter. And we'll see it once again. We'll see what happens with the punter situation. There's $1 million to be saved there if you go with a guy like Colquitt versus Cuttenberry. And then really, I mean, the only intrigue I think right now, are you expecting much more? Okay, other than the punting situation. Between now and a week from Monday, do you think there's going to be any more roster shakeup?
In terms of adding outsiders, no, I don't think there'll be much of anything in that regard.
All right, so really the only intrigue at this point then is what's going to happen with Cameron Heyward, right?
Right. Now that's the last domino to hopefully fall. We don't know that for sure, but we'll find out in about a week.
Yeah, that's about all we have left, and to find out here. But the other thing I was going to get to real quick here was going to run down for you the updated list of free agents as of like 2 hours ago. Here are your exclusive rights free agents as of right now for 2021. J.C. Hassenauer, Marcus Allen.
Sorry to interrupt, but Cam Heyward just tweeted, "Pittsburgh is where I belong." Don't know if that means something, but he just tweeted it, and he has the what do you want to say? Video Photoshop of his face in the "I'm not leaving" from Wolf of Wall Street with everyone else's faces in there. Ooh. So I think we might have some news on Cam Heyward contract extension.
All right.
All right, little breaking news.
How about
maybe?
A little bit of breaking news? Maybe.
It's not official. It's implied, but that sounds like a contract extension to me.
Maybe we should stay on here for just a little bit here, a little bit longer here. But while you watch that closely, where was I? Oh, you got
a lot of time put into this video, so this better be a contract extension because somebody did some video editing on this. All
right, I'll run this down real quick. The
go ahead.
Exclusive rights free agents for you right now: J.C. Hassenauer, Marcus Allen, Ray McLeod, Robert Spillane, all exclusive rights free agents after the season. Ola Adeni, the one restricted free agent right now. This team is scheduled to have, and boy, the list of unrestricted free agents is long, as we've talked about a lot. Alejandro Villanueva, Bud Dupree, Cameron Heyward. I don't know if I'm going to be Xing that one out pretty soon. Cameron Sutton, Chris Wormley, James Conner, Jordan Berry. Who knows? That might get removed from the list here pretty soon. Jordan Dangerfield, Juju Smith-Schuster, Matt Filer, Mike Hilton, Tyson Alualu, Zach Banner. Added to the list today, Joshua Dobbs, and we think Sean Davis, if that's a one-year deal. So long list of exclusive rights free agents, and 4 exclusive rights free agents, and 1 restricted free agents as we talk to you right now.
All right. Well, hopefully be one less name on that list with Cam Heyward. Still not seeing anything on any reporting on that, but I mean, if that doesn't mean contract extension, I don't know what that could be referring to.
Hold on.
We got some news. What do we got?
Yes. Hold on.
I don't see anything, but
well, the PR department just retweeted the Steelers PR department retweeted this Cameron Heyward video.
I think it's happening, Dave.
It's happening. Raise your arms. It's happening.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'm calling it. I'm saying it's happened. We don't know details, but I'm saying it's happened. Cam Heyward's just a Steeler for life.
Yeah, it looks like it is. So in the meantime, Alex and I will be back as soon as possible, probably on Wednesday. Who knows? We might add to this podcast a little bit later tonight here. But in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex Kozora on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the donate button upright navigational bar. I'm all excited. I can't even speak. I'm almost shaking right now. But let's see. If you want to get an ad-free version of the site, go to SteelersDepot.com. Click the ad-free button upright navigational bar. And for 1 calendar year, for $25, you can have ad-free version of the site. So with that, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.